get started, I'm going to show you all the materials that I'm using for this project. So the first thing, as you see here, is my yarn. I'm using these Yarnspirations Carron Skinny Cake. This yarn is self-changing color, so as you can see, I don't have to buy several colors to make this sweater. Everything just comes as changing like this, so you get your colors all done for you. This yarn is called Pop Rock. As you can see here, it is a light weight number 3. Recommended hook size for crochet is 4mm crochet, and machine washable and dryable. It's 100% acrylic, and for the weight, it's 8.8 ounces or 250 grams. And if you're looking for the other measurements, you will see that it's here as well. And so that's the yarn that I'm using. Love this combination of colors here. I'm going to be using a 4.25mm crochet hook, and the reason I'm using a size that is a little bit bigger than what is recommended for the yarn is because I like to do my work a little bit looser, and because I know I crochet tight naturally, it's always good for me to up my crochet size a little bit to just make sure I'm keeping the looseness consistent. So you have an option of using the 4mm crochet hook, or you can use the size that you're comfortable based on how you know you crochet. So this is 4.25mm. Okay, and then of course I have my scissors to be able to cut my strands at the end. I have a darning needle to be able to sew in my ends, as well as sew my different panels of the sweater together to make the full project. I'm also going to be using some stitch markers just to make sure I can mark out where I am going to be sewing my sweater together. And of course, you need your tape measure to be able to measure the size of sweater that you're looking for. So for me, I'm going to be making a sweater that is about a small to a medium. Okay, so let's get started. Okay guys, so to get this project started, we're going to start with a foundation chain of 11 chains. And to start my chain, I'm going to do a slip knot, and this is how I do my slip knot. So I just wrap the short part of the string or of the yarn on my thumb, so that it creates this X in the front of my thumb like that. I'm going to take my middle finger and hold it. I'm going to slide it off my thumb. I have this circle. I put the hook through, I yarn over, and I bring in my yarn, and I let go, and I close it shut like that. So this is how I do my slip knot. And now that I have my slip knot, I'm going to do my foundation chain of 11 chains. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. And now that I have that, I am going to do single crochets in the back of this chain. So if you flip the chain this way, you will see that it has these bumpy parts like that. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm going to be working in the back of these bumpy areas here. Okay, so we're going to skip this first stitch here. That's why we did 11 chains, is because we're not working on the 11th stitch. We're going to be starting on the 10th stitch, and we're going in the back of the chain, and we're going to go and grab that stitch just like that, and do our single crochet like so. Okay, then we're going to go right into the next stitch, go in the back of the chain, grab it, and do our single crochet stitch. So we're going to do this for the next 8 stitches as well until you get to the end. So go ahead and do so. When you get to this end, come back and I will show you guys how to start the next row. So I have just completed my 10th single crochet in the final stitch here, and that's how your first row should look like. Very, very nice and basic. And so what you're going to do is you're going to chain 1, then turn your work, and then on this side, on the very first stitch right after the chain 1, you're going to do your single crochet, but you're going to go to the back loop only like that. Okay, so as you can see, I have an option of going like this, which is going through both loops, but I am going to go into the back loop only like that. and then I'm going to do my single crochet, and then I'm going into the next stitch, only the back loop, and do my single crochet, and so on and so forth. So you're going to do this until you have one final stitch at the end. When you have one stitch to go, come back and I'll show you how to move on, finishing off the final 10th stitch and then moving on to the 3rd row. So go ahead and do this and I'll see you guys at the end. Okay guys, so this is almost at the end of the 2nd row. So as you can see here, I have done 9 stitches and I have one more final stitch to go. And the reason I wanted you guys to join me here is because when it comes to this final stitch, I don't actually go in the back loop only, as we've been doing the last 9 stitches. I go through both loops for this final stitch. So I go through both loops like that, and then I yarn over and I complete that. So this is how I do my 10th stitch, and this is going to be consistent with every single row that we do. Is when I get to the end, I work in the back loop only for 9 stitches. In the 10th stitch, I go through both loops just like I did here, and then I will chain 1. And for row 3, we pretty much repeat what we did in row 2. So this is a 2nd row repeat. So I'm going to do my single crochet there, my single crochet in the next stitch, and so on and so forth. When I get to the end, in the 10th stitch, I'm going to go through both loops, chain 1, turn my work. And for this basic sweater that I'm making with you today, I am going to do a total of 80 rows. So I have 2 here, so go ahead and do 78 more. When you get to your 80th or the end of your 80th row, come back. Now this is because of the size of sweater I'm making. If you're looking to make a sweater that fits you, then you would have done the measurements to see how big to make this, and then you would be able to do it either less rows or more rows than what I'm doing. Now to do that, you're going to pretty much measure from one side of your rib to the other on the front side, because we're making one panel, and this could either be your front panel or the back panel, and they're going to be equal. So you're going to pretty much do exactly 2 of the same, or 2 of the exact same ones. So if you're going to measure, you can either measure your full waist across and then divide that by 2, or you can do half of your around your torso, and whatever is half of that is, then you do the number of rows that is equivalent to that. So for me, I'm going to do 80 rows, and it's not quite the circumference of my torso, but I'm making the sweater a little bit loose. So I'm making it 80 rows because it's gonna be a little bit looser than tight fit. Okay, so that's something you have to consider as well. Okay, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and complete my 80 rows, and when I get to the 80th row, I'm going to come back to you guys and show you how to move on to the next step. So I'll see you guys in a bit. Okay guys, so I have completed my 80 rows of the base of the sweater here. So as you can see, this is how it looks like, and this is single crochet in the back loop, and it's pretty much, it looks the same on both sides like that. So this is 80 rows. Okay, so hopefully you have the number of those rows that you're looking for your sweater. And so what I'm gonna do here is I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to turn my work like this so I can work along this side. Okay, so after I chain my 1, I am going to do a single crochet in the next stitch right there, and I'm going to do a single crochet there, and then in the next stitch I'm going to do a single crochet, and in the next stitch a single crochet. And now if you look at it carefully, I'm talking about in the next stitch, but there's actually no actual definite stitches. So what I do is I just do 1 single crochet on top of this thing that looks like a bump here, and then there's a valley that I also do 1 there. So in the next, so I do 1 in this section, in the next section I do another single crochet, then I move on to on top of this bump here, which is a combination of 2 rows of single crochet, and then in the valley here I do 1, and I pretty much continue to do this until I get to the end. So what I will do is I will let you guys continue to do your single crochet stitches across the side of these work that we just created here. When you get to the end here, come back and I'll show you how to start the first row of the double crochet stitch. Okay, so I'll see you guys in a bit. Okay, my friends, so I went ahead and completed my first row here of the single crochet. Now I often don't count this row as a row at all, because I'm just establishing stitches of where I'm going to work to create the rest of the sweater panel. So I'm at the end, so as you can see here, I did my final single crochet there. And what I'll do to start my first row of double crochet stitches is I'm going to chain 2. Then I'm going to turn my work. Okay, and in this very first stitch after the chain 2, I'm going to do my double crochet. And then I'm going to move on to the next stitch and I'm going to do my double crochet. And at this point, I'm going through both loops of the stitch. So I'm not actually going through either the back loop only or the front loop only. I'm going through both loops of the stitch. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and continue to do this for the rest of the remaining stitches of this row. And again, I don't count how many stitches I have per row. What I care for is that I have the same number of rows for the base of the sweater, and that usually works out so that it's very even when you end up doing the 2 panels. Maybe give and take 1 stitch off, 1 stitch extra, but all in all, you're going to be keeping it very equal. So I am going to go ahead and continue to create this panel, and I'm going to do this all the way to the end. So my final double crochet stitch will go right here, just right here where my nail is, right here. Then I'm going to go ahead and do chain 2, turn, and then continue to do my double crochets across till I get back to this end, and I'll do my another final double crochet stitch right here, chain 2, continue to do that until I get to, I believe, 60 rows. Now, like I said, you don't count this first stitch that we did here, the single crochet stitch, as a row. So this double crochet stitch is my first row of the 60 rows that I'm doing. So go ahead and do that, create your 60 rows. When you get to your 60th row, come back, we will finish it off together, and then we will work on doing the second panel as well as creating the sleeves for this sweater. Okay, all right, so I'll see you guys when you have your first panel completed. Hi guys, so I have completed the first panel of my basic sweater here. So as you can see, this is where we started it off right here, and then we worked it up like this. So I have 40 rows total here, and this is my 40th row that I just completed here. So I'm going to go ahead and fasten these off, and then I'm going to show you guys how to do an arm panel. And then when we have, this can either be the back panel or the front panel, whichever way, because we're going to do exactly 2 same panels. One can be the back, one is the front, and then we're going to do 2 panels, one for each arm as well, okay, for the sleeves. So with this completed here, I'm going to finish these off, and I'm just going to cut these off. I'm going to leave the string long for sewing it in. Okay, and then we're just going to pull this here to fasten it off, just like so. Okay, so this is done. So as you can see here, this is the panel. Okay, this is how it looks like. Okay, so 40 rows total here after the base here, and then 1 row of single crochet. Okay, all right, so I'm going to put these away, and then we can go ahead and get started on the sleeve panel. Okay guys, so to go ahead and get our sleeve panel started, we are going to go ahead and start off by doing a slip knot. This is how I do my slip knot here. Okay, there you go. Now that I have my slip knot, I'm going to do a chain of 11. 1, 2, 3. That's my chain 11. And then to start the first row, I'm going to flip my work and work in the back of this bridges, okay? And I'm going to start in the second chain from the hook, and I'm going to do a single crochet stitch. This is very similar to how we started the front panel of the sweater. So I'm going to do that all the way to the end of the row, and then when I get to the end of the row, we're going to go ahead and start our row 2. So I'll let you guys reach to the end, and then I'll see you guys when you get there. Okay, so that is the end of our first row here, and it's all single crochet stitch in the back of the chain. And now we're going to go ahead and start our second row. I'm going to chain 1, turn my work, and then we're going to do single crochets in the back loop of these stitches. So the stitch right after the chain 1, we're going to go in the back loop and do a single crochet. Then we'll move on to the next, and at this point you should have 10 stitches all together. So make sure you're counting your stitches to make sure you have the 10 stitches, because it's simple to lose a stitch or add a stitch by accident. So make sure there's always 10 stitches with this. Okay, so you're going to pretty much do this until you get to 40 rows. I'm doing this for a sweater that is a small. So if you're doing a sweater that is either smaller than small, then you will do less rows. And if you're doing a sweater that is larger than a small, could be a medium, a large, an extra large, then you will need to do a lot more rows than what I'm doing here. So I'm doing 40 because I'm doing a small sweater. Okay, so as you can see here, I'm heading to the end. For this last stitch here, I'm going to go through both loops as opposed to going just through the back loop only, like that. Okay, so that is the end of my second row. And so I'm going to ask you guys to continue building up these part of your sweater, and when you get to the number of rows you're looking for, come back to the video. And for myself, I'm going to be doing 40 rows. I have 2 already. I'm doing 38 more, and I'll see you guys when I get to the end. Okay guys, so I have completed my 20 rows here of the single crochet stitch in the back loop, and that's why we have this rib pattern here. This is very stretchy, so just FYI, this is part of my risk of the sweater. So this is how it's gonna go. So if, like, as you can see here, I'm making it a little bit loose, and the whole sweater is gonna be super loose. So I'm also matching that on the sleeve. But if you're making this and it's going to be something that you want to be tight, you gotta be very careful with it, because this part of the sweater is really stretchy, and that's the part that goes on your wrist. Okay, so just be aware of that. So I did 40 rows here, and so the next row that I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a row of single crochet stitch across like this, like just right on top here. And that row I don't count, and then I would follow with about 40 rows of the double crochet stitch. So as you can see here, this is the final 40th row that I just did. And so I'm going to do a chain of 1, okay, and then I am going to just hold my work like this so I can work on the long side here. And right on top here, I'm going to do a single crochet stitch just like that, and then I'm going to do a single crochet stitch here, and then a single crochet stitch. And again, if you have seen my videos where I make these sweaters, this pattern particularly, I do a single crochet in these bumpy area, a single crochet in this area that's a valley, and then a single crochet in this in the bumpy area, and so on and so forth. Okay, so as you can see here, I'm just going to keep doing that until I get to the end of this side here. When I get to the end here, then I'm going to come back and show you guys how to do the first row of the double crochet stitch. So go ahead and do this row of single crochet stitch and then come back so we can go ahead and move on to the next row. Okay, all right, see you guys in a bit. Okay guys, so I have completed the first row here of the single crochet stitch, and honestly I don't count these as a row because it's just to establish stitches where I can then go ahead and do my double crochet stitches. So that's pretty much what I do that first row for. So in often in a lot of cases where I'm using this pattern, I don't use that first row as a row, and so I'm going to show you what I do for the next the first row of the double crochet stitch. So I'm going to go ahead, and by the way, just to make sure you go to this very final stitch here, because if you don't, it's just gonna look like you're not, like you're not at the very end of your row here. Okay, anyway, so you're gonna go ahead and do a chain of 2 here, turn your work, and then this is where we're gonna start the first row of the double crochet stitch. So the first one that I just did here is in the very first stitch after the chain 2, and then I'm going to go ahead and go into the next stitch and do my double crochet stitch, and then I'm going to do that pretty much all the way to the end, and I'm going to do about 40 rows of the double crochet stitch. So as you can see here, this is my first row of the double crochet stitch. Okay, so I'll just put it down like this. Okay, so again, I'm making these for a small size, and the 40 rows is going to take me from the beginning of my wrist here all the way to the end of my arm. Okay, and that is the length of my arm. So if you're looking to do it for yourself or someone, you will have to definitely make sure you know the length of their arm, okay, because some people do have longer arms than others. So you will do the number of rows based on the length of the arm of the person you're making the sweater for. So for me, it's about a small again, and so I'm going to be doing about 40 rows of these double crochet stitch. So I'll let you guys build that up, and when you get all the way to the 40th row or the number of rows that you're doing for your project, come back and we'll go ahead and finish these off and move on to the next step of the sweater. Okay, see you guys in a bit. Okay guys, so I have gone ahead and completed my first sleeve here. So as you can see, this is where we started off, and we did 40 rows all together. Okay, and now that we're at the end here, I've done my 40th row. I'm going to go ahead and cut these off, and then I'm going to ask you guys to make a second panel for the sleeve off camera, and I'll do the same, and then when we come back we will be ready to join our 2 back and front panels, and then join our sleeves to the body panel. Okay, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and cut these off here, and we're going to fasten these off, and that is pretty much done here. So again, like I said, we just have to go ahead and duplicate this panel like we did this one, and it's the same thing we did with the 2 body panel, the back panel and the front panel. We pretty much make one that is a duplicate for the front to the back. Okay, so we're going to do the same with this. So go ahead and make your second panel for the sleeve, and then come back when we have everything. You should have 4 panels total, and then we'll go ahead and join it. Okay, see you guys in a bit. Okay guys, so I have gone ahead and completed my 2 sleeves for this sweater. So as you will see here, this is the first one that we did together, and then I went ahead and duplicated that and got a second one for my other sleeve. So this is it here. So again, it's 40 inches for each one of them. This is the beginning for both, and then we went up all the way until up here. Okay, now I'm just gonna put this on the side. I'm gonna bring the 2 panels for the body into the camera here. So I have already gone in and put stitch markers where I'm going to be joining my sweater together. I apologize, you cannot see the whole thing because the camera is not wide enough to show the whole thing, but what I've pretty much done, so first of all, this is where my sleeve is going to go. Okay, this is about 12 inches around, but it's about 6 inches down like this, and that is pretty much the circumference of the biggest part of my arm. Okay, and then up here it's about 5.5 inches, and this is the part that's going to go just right from the base of my neck towards my arm, and then this is where my neck is going to go. Okay, and then the same thing on this side. So I have already sectioned where I'm going to be joining the top. So this is going to be joined shut here, the sleeve is going to be put in this space here, okay, and then we're going to join it all the way down to the end down here, and then we repeat the same thing on this side. Okay, so I will go ahead and do this off camera. You guys also go ahead and join it. Make sure you have your darning needle with you to assist you in joining your panels together. If you don't have stitch markers like this, you can use bobby pins. You can use just pieces of yarn to mark where you're gonna be sewing it together. It will give you a good guidance so that you don't join your work and it's crooked at the end. Yeah, so go ahead and do that, and pretty much when you come back we will have a sweater that is wearable, and we should be able to put it on, and it will be good to go. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and join mine, and I'll see you guys when you have yours joined and when you come back to the video. See you guys in a bit. Okay guys, so the sweater is all done. So I've joined it completely, so everything is just nice and ready to be worn here. So this is pretty much the sweater. This is the bottom of it. I'm sorry, the camera is too small for me to show the whole thing at once, but this is pretty much it here. So this is the sleeve that goes all the way like this, and the neckline, and then the other side, and then the bottom of it. Okay, all right, so as you will see the sweater here on me, that's pretty much how it looks like. It's not too hot of a sweater, it's not too cold, it's very gappy as you can see here. So it's nice to wear in the fall or the spring, but probably not in the summer. But anyways, wherever you are, you can probably understand when you will be, or when would be appropriate time to wear this sweater. But as long as you know how to make it, and you can make a few for yourself or your family or your loved ones, that's all that matters. And I'll let you guys go here, but before you do so, if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please do so. It's called Simply Angel Tiah, and I am Angel Tiah, and your support really means a lot to me. It encourages me to make more videos for future. And yeah, so hopefully you guys will share, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Okay, ciao.